Hi, it's Chris with Implied Music, and I'm back with another Gizmo Sunday. And this week, thanks to Fracture Sounds, we're taking a look at Trails. It's a part of their signature collection, and we've looked at a couple things from them that sort of fall into this category. This from violinist Alexander Parsons, a session instrumentalist who's just a terrific violinist, but also who frequently works with modular synthesizers, processing the sound to create really interesting textures. It's a kind of a weird, deep, quirky instrument that has some conventional fracture sounds goodies built into it, as well as, I guess I would just say, some unique qualities in terms of instrumental performance. We'll take a look at it today. Well, Trails is sort of broken down into, I guess I experience it as sort of four basic categories. And we're looking here at the violin cello library. You can split them out. You can get just violin and just cello separately, but I've put them together so I can have a full range of the keyboard to play low notes, high notes, and stuff like that. And then later on in this review, we'll touch on the Faulkner Dulcichord, which is this kind of beautiful little tine piano, sort of a traveling instrument that's quite unusual, as well as some synthesizer textures based on the original samples created for the instrument we're looking at here, as well as something from the Fracture Sounds Granular engine. And they've made, I think, a couple of nice additions to that engine, and so that it's a very expressive and kind of unusual sound. Additionally, they give you some lightweight granular presets that sort of are condensed versions of same, very little control over it. But I think what we'll be first most interested in are these 8 timbral, gestural, instrumental form approaches to violin. So the first one, Emergence, is perhaps the most kind of legato and normal sounding violin sound, but listen to this note. I think you'll agree it's a very expressive, emotional set of timbres. It loads all 8 instruments unless I turn them off and on. You see that switch there? And in addition to the sample itself, we've got the signature Fracture Sounds atmospheres over here on the right. The raw sample is the volume knob under raw, and then these individual atmospheres, and we can choose any number of them. There are a few beauties, I guess is what I would say. And they're sort of all just up as it is right there. I have an atmosphere intensity knob, which without the atmospheres, this is what the violin sample sounds like. Gorgeous, right? And we'll bring the intensity up. And of course, we could, if we wish, just control click on this knob and add some MIDI automation to it. You see right now it's on CC1. So CC1, whoop, that's fun. I've got dynamics and atmosphere intensity on CC1. Of course, we have tiny little controls over here, pan, volume, attack, and release. You're not going to get a lot of marcato sounds out of this instrument unless they're built into the actual gesture itself. So I'm going to take Emergence off and go to Flickers. So Flickers is a whole different world. Same chord. This is great for scoring. Above the, here's our dynamics control, and above that is lo-fi, and lo-fi adds a beautiful kind of unusual quality. Let's turn it up as I play. And of course, we have controls for that as well, including hiss, which you can probably hear a little bit of right now. maybe you can't. I sometimes use noise reduction. And that hiss can be controlled. I have another general control knob over here, and I can have noise mode always on or just when I'm in play. And sometimes that might be a better way to go about doing it. But for the time being, let's just leave it always on. Flickers are so much fun. Now, emergence sort of gives us one kind of sound. Divergence is sort of an inversion of that, if you will. This is just a beautiful sound. I mean, there's something going on right now with the sample library world where individual artists are presenting their unique personal visions of what their instrument can do. And we're getting these remarkable libraries, which, admittedly, as a composer, I have to buy into their vision. I mean, that sound is that sound. Let's look at ricochets. And what do we got for controls? Attack and release. And I'm going to go over here, and I'm going to look at tightness. So right now I'm experiencing, I guess I would say, a certain amount of latency. If I take the tightness up, however, it plays right into the sample. It cuts into the sample. So there's a sort of a trade-off because I don't get as much of the initial attack and the juiciness of the sort of weird bounce of the bow, right? Bouncing on the bow, the ricochet bow, is a kind of a really specific violin technique. Short swells, just what you expect. And then stutters. I love it. It's kind of random ricochets, right? I'm just going to hold down one key. Maybe we need a little delay on that. And lo-fi. Oh, so much fun with that. Now, reflections is sort of just this lovely sound. And you can hear there's a little bit of animation going on in the sound. And then deviations kind of goes with emergence and divergence. So listen to one note. And then I'll add a note. You hear the harmonics coming in. It's a sort of a flautando bow. That is to say, a light, fast bow on the strings. And so you're getting quite a set of textures. Well, like Fracture Sound's other instruments, I can shift-click to hear two sounds at once. For instance, I could have flickers and deviations at the same time. And get this kind of very exciting texture. Well, I'm really grateful to Parsons for showing us that. But let's go on now for something completely different, the Faulkner Dulcichord. The Dulcichord is a unique little keyboard instrument, and I guess there aren't that many in existence. We're lucky to have this one. It actually ordinarily has a pretty narrow range. If I click over here, you can see I've turned on extended range, but let's turn it off, and you can see now I've just got barely 3 octaves. But I'm going to turn on the extended range again. And the sample starts cut in, and there's a certain amount of velocity response going on here. But I've actually changed this to suit me already. So listen to this lovely little instrument. All right, let's go on to the synths, because the synths created from these original samples, and by the way, the atmospheres are also created from the original samples, are really some of the best things about this instrument? Well, it seems like I've come across a couple of instruments that are doing something like this interface recently. And the interface itself presents us with opportunities for 3 separate sample sets. And you can choose which sample set is going to appear in each of these 3 layers. Now, as I move this big knob, so to speak, I'll go from having just one of the sounds to afterlife layering in, and then on top of that, drywall modular B layering in. I can set the octave for each of them. I can't really do much else to those individual sounds, but nevertheless, still really expressive. It's got some randomization abilities as well. I've locked layer 1 and layer 2, so this little locking thing here. And if I want to change my top layer, I can randomize it just by hitting the swap it button. Listen, I want to go on because there's so much to look at in this instrument. Next, we have the granular engine, and it's its own world. Like any granular synthesis, what we're doing is we're selecting tiny little bits of a sound and repeating it. I can change a number of elements about that, including the shape of the grain to smooth it out, or how dense it is. Adding various synthesizer controls like just, ADSR, delay and reverb can help a lot. They've given us, and thank you for that, a number of snapshots to get us started. So short flight. Not sustained. Let's just take a look at some of these controls. So the grain shape gives us a very smooth effect, and if I take it down, you'll really hear the effect of what a grain is like. Tiny little snippets of audio from within this range of the sample. The position here controls a lot. You see that central thing? And if I take the speed way down, spray controls how far away it goes. And you can see now it's just kind of a regular sound. This is nice, and I'm actually going to increase the grain shape to give me a smoother effect. And suddenly I've got a sound that's very interesting, lively, and a little bizarre. Well, listen, because this is a fairly processor-intensive engine, right? They've given us some lightweight granular presets, and that basically means if I'm judging this correctly, that they've just kind of like set up a granular preset, said, oh, that's gorgeous, and then dropped it into the sampler with a couple of things that I can control, really just the envelopes. And I can just step through these patches this way. Honestly, this is a great way to get started, and it's worth mentioning now that Fracture Sounds does this sort of free collection of instruments that give you an introduction to their range of sounds. Oh, what's it called? I'll put it up on the screen if my brain, it's hard to be an old man. These are a lot of fun, and there's, a dozen or more of these presets that you can use. Well, Trails has an organic quality that I admire. And if I'm as a composer willing to buy into this sort of timbral world, this set of sounds that are so evocative and really just kind of are about Alexander Parsons' particular perspective on things, then I've got an instrument that I can use to create some wonderful worlds. I hope this has been useful. Like and subscribe and ding the bell. You'll be notified when I do my videos. Happy Gizmo Sunday. I'll see you next time.